Welcome, folks, to our November webinar, Repurpose Your Sermons. We're going to talk about how you can learn how AI can turn your messages into really, quite frankly, probably at least a dozen tools that you can use for your ministry. So it's one of these deals that, well, we'll get into it, but it's a great opportunity here to learn about AI. And we'll have some Q&A at the end. We're also going to have a giveaway at the end, so you have to stick around for that. But we're glad you're here. This webinar, as usual, is brought to you by streamingchurch.tv. And we've been serving churches now since 2001. And it's a privilege for us to do that. We offer lots of resources. We'll give you some information on all that stuff in a little bit, but we're glad you're here. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. You can also ask us questions with the chat, and we'll get to those questions at the very end, give you some answers. So feel free to chat anytime you like, but we will more than likely field those at the very end of this 30-minute webinar. We're going to try to keep it under 30 minutes. So without further ado here, let's go ahead and move forward here. Let's introduce our host today. And we'll start with our founder and our CEO. His name is Mr. Steve Lacey. Steve, how are you today?
I am doing just great.
Who are you? Tell us about yourself.
I am a father and a degreed engineer. Been serving churches with web-based tools since 2001. So I'm the guy behind the scenes at streamingchurch.tv.
And a guy that's been involved in ministry, maybe not on staff, but on leadership teams and volunteer teams and doing a lot of stuff since you've been very young.
That is true. Yep. Part of deacon boards and things like that. Never been paid by the church, unlike you guys.
Yeah, we were paid, if you want to call it that. And let's introduce Michael Gray to you. Michael, how are you today?
Hey, y'all. I am great today. So similarly, my dad was a pastor, so I grew up in the church and started working in a church volunteering-wise a long time ago when I was young, but I went on full staff in 2008, full-time staff. And I've done just about everything except for senior pastor.
But you were working very close to the senior pastor as well. So you definitely have a lot of experience. And my name is Phil Thompson again, and I'm with streamingchurch.tv. And I was actually raised a Unitarian and became a follower of Jesus in 1976 and got into ministry soon after that. And I've worn a lot of hats, including a senior pastor. I was senior pastor for about 8 years, executive pastor for, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years, something like that. So between all of us here, we have a lot of ministry experience. So let's talk a little bit about church and what many of you listening or watching here probably experience: weekly church staff workloads. So we're going to talk briefly about that. The average U.S. Protestant pastor spends almost 14 hours each week in preparation for their Sunday message. This is from Lifeway Research. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, as a senior pastor, I spent more than 14 hours, felt like 14 years, 14 hours preparing my messages usually every week. I mean, it's just, I don't know where that stat comes from. Well, it comes from Lifeway, but I spent more time than that. And I think, Michael, in the times that you actually spoke, you could probably agree with that, right? I think he does. And then 65% of pastors say they work 50 hours or more a week. I think that's pretty accurate, maybe more. I think I did that as well. And then, Michael, if you can, talk about this stat from Mission, or this quote from Missional Marketing, about Facebook and Instagram. Or maybe you can't at this point. I'll talk about it. Or Steve, you can talk about it.
Let's
2 to 4 times a week. What's that mean, 2 or 4 times a week?
Yeah. We're kind of setting up the case that you guys are really busy here, and we need some tools to kind of help get the work done during the week. So yeah. And posting a face to social is part of it as well. Mike's going to talk a little bit more about that in detail in another chart here.
2 to 4 times per week. Now, this is something that's different than when I grew up in the church. And then the leader of your social media team should be somebody who can devote at least 10 hours a week to these efforts. And larger congregation should consider having a staff person. Mike, would you agree with that, since you did a lot of the social media stuff?
If you're going to do it well, and to that end, it's like anything else. There are a list of things I wished I had enough time to do when I was on staff, and so while my intentions were great, it's really hard without having a designated person and hours to make that happen. You'll see in the slide about social, this one 2 to 4 times a week, not even close. It needs to be a lot more than that if you're going to be effective.
Yeah. All right, let's boogie on here. So the bottom line is, if you really want to do this stuff right, most church staffs are overworked. They're overwhelmed, they're overworked, and there's a lot going on today. And so that's where we're going to talk about some numbers here. Steve, are you going to take this? I think you are, right? By the numbers?
I can. I mean, one of the things where you guys are, the staff is overworked, but there's a resource out there that's been somewhat untapped. So these are your recorded sermons. I have some data on this. Average the median sermon is 37 minutes long. And then we've got a bunch of more. 72% of the churches are maintaining sermon recordings. This is based on some data we've got. I should have looked it up before here, but tens, if not almost 100,000 Media Vault items that we're helping manage for churches. So this is based on some of that data. So about 72% of the churches do maintain sermon recordings. It's probably a little higher than that. Average church has over 82 hours of recorded sermons.
Wow.
I thought that was
Wow.
amazing.
That's a lot of hours.
Does anybody watch that stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, it may be because we provide unlimited on demand that we get the guys that want to have a lot of hours of sermons. 93 average views per recorded sermon. This surprised me as well.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of churches will get some really small numbers, but there are some sermons. It's kind of like a viral environment. You know, we'll have some sermons that have thousands of views. So that that works into the average as well. But on average, across all the churches that we serve, 93 averages views. So the sermons are being watched. So
they are. And of course, streamingchurch.tv, that's us. So we've definitely got all these numbers. So let's, as we're talking about all these numbers, the majority of recorded sermons seem to be abandoned by church staff. I mean, they're kind of like one and done. I mean, they're up there in their media vaults, but that's it. That's it. But there's more you can do with this, right?
Yeah, the churches spend all of their time during the week getting ready for the weekend, and that culminates in a sermon. And fortunately, we do record them. But after the sermon, I mean, put them in your media vault, and that's pretty much the only use right now.
Yeah, but there is a solution to this. So let's talk a little bit about social media content. This is where Michael Gray, the expert, comes in
here. Well, I do have some background in marketing and social media, and it is, as everyone knows, evolving fairly quickly. And so what we used to know about how much time to spend or how many times to post, it's changed a lot. So Facebook, yeah, you could get by with 1 or 2 times a day, 5, 8 times a week. But Twitter 3 to 5 times a day, Instagram about the same as Twitter, LinkedIn 1 time a day, and that we're not even talking about Pinterest, YouTube. I mean, YouTube should be a big one for the churches. But the big piece you got to look at now is what's really driving things is like YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. And so that video piece is such a huge piece now. There are some products out there to take your recorded sermon, and make clips out of it for you. Sermon Clips is a tool you can use, but it is a little pricey at $650 a month. If you had the money, that's a staff person, hours wise. How does that work? It might be worth it for some organizations. Social media, 70% of nonprofits are the most important communication channel. So if that is in fact true, how are these hours and hours and hours of sermons that we have at our disposal, how can we turn that into something great? I used to bribe my team to tell me the funniest or the most exciting or the most poignant point during the sermon. I would tip them with free coffee or free lunch if they helped me find within the sermon that special spot that I needed to clip out to promote the sermon. It's hard, and to keep on top of it and take the time and edit and clip and do all of those steps. Again, that's a staff person taking the time to do that kind of thing every week, and it takes some know-how and a good amount of time, and a lot of scrolling through video recordings.
Yeah, but there is an answer to this.
Yes,
there is a solution to this, and that's what we're talking about next. And this is where Mr. Steve Lacey kicks in.
Yeah, so we're excited to announce we've got this thing called the Sermon Clipper that's been put in place, and so that you can automatically use your recorded sermons to create some video snippets. So let's go on to the next slide here. So I'm going to walk through a demo, but it's basically you've got your sermon videos are in your media vault, and this tool allows you to just create to select those sermon videos. And then AI is going to go in the background and create a transcript and suggest some video highlights and allow you to preview those and then select the ones you want to use. So it's all completely automated. And I've got I can stop your sharing here and go to my sharing, I believe.
We'll let Steve show us a little bit of demo action here.
Yes, let's see if I can share this. And so this is right from our system. Hopefully you guys are seeing this.
Yes.
So
Wait,
you basically, this is a new thing. It's in beta still with us. It's called the AI Sermon Clipper. And if you click on the Sermon Clipper, it'll show you a list of all the videos that you have stored in your media vault. And this one's just got a few here. So I'm going to go through and you select the video, and then it's going to walk through a set of steps. And the reason we recorded this, each of the steps take a few minutes. So we didn't want to bore you with, having to go through each of the steps, but it's going to go through, take your recorded video, create a transcript of every word that was spoken in that video. And then in the background, we're going to analyze the transcript, and so that we can process that transcript. And then we're going to use ChatGPT. We're using ChatGPT 4 to go through and create some recommended clips. Let me show that next here. Let me close this one out and start this one.
Who's that guy surfing?
You see my screen here again?
Yep.
So you'll see that this thing has gone through. It took a few minutes, but it'll go from, all you do is select the video, and you'll see now that it's on step 5. And this is the point where AI has gone out and analyzed the video. It gives me the full sermon in a video player at the top. And then it's gone through, and you see some start and stop times and some clip synopsis. It'll create kind of a description of what's happening inside of this clip. And it'll also recommend a social headline. So if you wanted to post this first one to social media, it would say Finding Purpose in Adversity, Joseph's Story. And what you can do with this tool is just basically click on the, view this clip, and it'll jump to that clip. You'll see it at the top of the screen there. It'll take a second. And so it's going to that clip, and you can kind of preview it, and you'll see that each of these clips are about a minute long. So this is something suitable for your, for social media posts. So your next step is say, hey, I like this first one. I like this fourth one or third one, fourth one, or whatever. You just basically choose the ones that you want to turn into video snippets that you can post on social media. So this thing will go through, and basically I've perused all the ones I'm interested in. It only takes a few minutes. I go down to the bottom and I say create selected video clips, and the system will go off and parse your video. And let me jump over to this next one. You'll see that it's working on the last step here. Let me pull that up.
I want to remind people too, if they have questions about this, you can put your questions in right now during chat, and we'll get to them here at the end.
Yes. So this is the sermon clipper clips, and you'll see that first sermon that I was, is the top of the list, and it's created, thumbnails for each of the clips that I had selected. Again, I have the synopsis, and then it's got the ability to go in and preview the clips again. So you'll see this is a 56-second clip, and I can go in and I can either modify this thing further if I want to, clip it even shorter, or, do whatever I want, or just click my YouTube button or Facebook button, and this will post over to YouTube and Facebook. So it's it's leveraging the power of AI to create some video clips that you can post on social media very easily and quickly. I will stop sharing here.
All right, good deal. Wow, that's pretty exciting. So let me go back here to sharing my screen again, and we'll kind of move on here. So that was the sermon clipper. That was a little demo of the sermon clipper. And again, we want to get back to this whole deal. Pastors and staff, they're busy beavers all week long, especially preparing for Sunday morning. It's a challenge. 90% of the pastors feel they are inadequately trained to cope with the ministry demands. That's from Barna. And what the bottom line is this: when I went to Bible college, they taught people theology. They taught us theology. They didn't teach us a whole lot about working with people. And I think over the years, maybe that's improved a little bit. Hopefully that has.
Yeah.
But here's the next deal. Here's the next bug. Now you need, as a pastor, you need to be aware of social media. Maybe you don't have to do it. Maybe you have somebody else do it. But there's other stuff to do besides Sunday morning. So it's easy to feel like you're overwhelmed. 42% of pastors have experienced burnout in the past year. Again, I experienced that myself. That it's very common. There's a lot going on as pastors. Even if you're in a larger church, a lot is happening when you're counting people and all sorts of different things, boards, church boards, and then you talk about all this stuff and trying to reach people, social media. Here's what some people are saying. Here's what some church members are saying. They feel like their own spiritual growth is not happening. There's not much going on during the week. You can read that quote later. These are from Q. Here's another one. I attend church every Sunday, but I feel like I'm not growing spiritually during the week. It's like I'm disconnected from things, the challenges in my life. Here's another one. I attend church faithfully, but it can be challenging to stay spiritually nourished when, and look, we've all heard this as pastors, and some of it may be not valid, but there is a lot of it that is valid. And, there's opportunities here to use some tools, some AI tools, to be able to connect people and to grow, help them grow, and not make it such a huge burden on the staff. So let's talk about the midweek ministry solution.
Yeah, so the idea here is that, pastors are busy getting ready for the weekend. That's kind of their core focus, but the church members during the week are hungry for some feeding every day of the week. So we've put together something that we're excited about. We'll see here. Is it Mike or is it Phil?
This is Bob. This is Bob using AI. This is an AI feature that he's able to use. I don't know why it's showing up on this, but
Oh, okay. Well,
let's just
That's
act like
cool.
I know.
like it's
I was
okay.
like, how are these things
I think I gave them
appearing?
permission by accident, but it's okay, Bob. Keep doing it. It's okay. We're okay with this. It kind of highlights what we're trying to get across here.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to stop your sharing and again jump into
Right. Do I need to
sharing some videos here.
All right.
So again, using the same resource that we have before, which is our recorded sermons. We just released this last week, this digital devotions tool. And what this is going to do is it's going to take, well, the first step here is really cool in that I can go through and there are going to be audio devotions that are created that I can use in podcasts or Alexa, and I can have it use my pastor's voice to voice them. So in this example, I'm grabbing a couple of the clips that we made with the sermon clipper and giving them samples to the AI, and I'll go through and create some fields around it. You'll see later here in this recorded video how this shows up. So this is what this is going to do is it's going to train an AI tool to look at my sermon and create some 5 or 7 daily devotions based on the content that was taught in the serman.
And this is audio, right, Steve? I just want to clarify this. This is audio.
Yes, this is audio. So it's going through.
Okay.
And I'm gonna add my voice. This is one thing that I do one time. So you'll see.
So you're cloning your pastor's voice, so it's going to speak in his voice. Am I getting that right?
Yes,
okay.
It will be that. As the audio plays, it will be in that person's voice. And I wish here we could demonstrate that even more significantly. So you'll see it added Pastor Tanner as the voice. So I select that voice. I say, I'm going to use my pastor's voice. I'm going to use last Sunday's sermon. And again, you'll notice that it's going to begin to create the devotional here. It's already done the transcript, so it's kind of skipped a few steps and moved on to the third step where our AI assistant is going to go through, and you'll see this next piece that it has created, in this case, 5 devotionals. And if I click on that devotional, any one of these devotionals, I can click on and it will play. I kind of hear it. Do you guys hear it?
I don't.
Oh, I didn't share. I didn't share the audio.
You gotta share your audio, but
well, I won't do that. But it's trust me, it is Pastor Tanner's voice, and this content is not cut from the sermon transcript. This content was created based on the teaching in the sermon content. So a subtle difference here. So it's creating a daily devotion for each day that you can post to. The last shot of that screen there was, I can post it over to My Church Daily, which is another tool that we have that will play on, I have one on my desk here, so I can't say her name exactly, but Allegra, if I say, play my flash briefing for today, it'll go through and give me the weather, give me the news, and it'll give me the message, the daily devotion from Pastor Tanner playing right on my audio device, or I can stick it in my podcast or wherever else I wanted to have that.
All right. Yeah. You were speaking of Alexa. You can't say it because you have an Alexa device on your desk, right? And it will start talking. So just to clarify this real quickly here. So this is basically creating content. It's not taking the content that was already done from the sermon and cutting it up. It's actually creating content from the message, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Nice. That's awesome.
And you've cloned your pastor's voice. So it's not your pastor speaking, it's his cloned voice speaking.
Yes. So when it
Interesting.
plays, actually, yeah, the pastor wouldn't have said, he didn't have to spend the time to record. You kind of get
Right.
these from free, leveraging your sermons.
Okay, good. Just want to clarify that. And again, if people have questions, put it in chat. And Bob, if you want to use AI, feel free. So there's other alternatives here. I feel like I put Bob on the spot. It's not, Bob, feel free to use AI. Actually, we should have been using it ourselves. All right. So Steve, what's this next thing about here?
So this next thing, let me share my screen
That's funny, Bob.
again. Let me share my screen again.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to do a little demo using Claude. And
What's
now
Claude,
that
Steve?
Yeah, what is Claude?
Claude is, a lot of people have heard of ChatGPT,
Yep.
or Bing, or Bard, or Claude is another tool that's out there that is from the company called Anthropic. And one of its unique advantages right now, today, is it can take large amounts of text. We have an associate pastor at our church that's going through school, and he said he'll load a whole PDF in there and say, give me the cliff notes of this lecture that I listened to. But what I'm going to do here is, I am sharing my screen, right? So I'm going to grab.
Is that Claude surfing? Is that who Claude is on the surf right now? Surfboard? Is that who it is?
I'm sharing the right screen, aren't I?
We're looking at Claude
Not yet,
surfing.
but you're getting
He's
close.
Okay,
surfing right
let's
now.
stop the share
Oh, that's
here.
not
Let's
Claude.
start.
That was you. All right. Never mind.
Okay.
Yes, this is the one I meant to share.
I thought he was my crazy uncle.
All right. You see?
Oh,
You see?
ooh, this is text. This is a bunch of.
That's a
Yes.
lot of text.
This
That's
is, here's my digital devotion that I just created.
Yeah.
And down at the bottom, it's got my transcript. So I
So
can
that's
go
the
through.
sermon transcript that was recorded from last week.
Yes. So this is a
Okay.
sermon transcript. So I can go and
Okay.
this is word for word. So, 54 seconds in, he says, 10 years. It's been 10 years I've been stuck in this prison. He's talking about Joseph stuck in prison. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it. And I'm going to go over to Claude. And I'm going to ask Claude to create a short summary of this sermon.
Okay.
Based on this transcript.
So anybody can do this if they have access to Claude and they have a sermon transcript, right?
Yeah, Claude is a free tool. If you go to Claude, you see in the URL up here, Claude.ai. This one, and soon, ChatGPT is kind of the most powerful one out there right now, but it has limitations on the amount of text you can feed it at one time. But that's going to change dramatically next year. They just had an announcement where they're going to increase the content. So I'm pasting the sermon. You see it shows up as a paste. And I just tell Claude to go for it. And so Claude is going through and analyzing or reading the sermon and coming through with a short summary of the sermon. So here's a short summary, the key points of the sermon transcript, main points: avoid and resist temptation. So it kind of gives you a nice little short sermon summary that I can use in other places as well, nice, quickly. Or I can go in here and let's say, please create a discussion guide for a church small group based on the.
So you could use this for your small group meetings.
On the following sermon transcript.
You don't actually have to re-add it. You could just say.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I'll base.
Yeah, it remembers in the thread you're using. It remembers what it's done, and it will take all of that accumulation and create whatever you want.
Yeah, so I could have just continued the discussion. Mike's right. I could have just said, okay, now take that same transcript and create a small group discussion guide. So it's going to crank through. It's going to work on the small group discussion guide. I know that we met at a conference not too long ago, people that were responsible for creating these discussion guides every week.
Yeah.
And
Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
AI.
this is a life changing
Oh yeah,
for people because
I used to have to do this manually all the time.
yeah, me
Remember,
too.
Mike? Same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. We were coming up with it from scratch, and now how long is this taking? Less than 30
Yeah.
seconds, and it gave me at least something to start with. I may have
Yeah.
to go in and add some other Bible references or something, but it's a pretty good set of bones to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just go in.
Yeah, you can
Well,
always modify this once you have it.
yeah.
And that's really what should be always the case for everything.
Yes,
You know,
always.
you don't want to
Yeah.
just cut
So I can
and paste.
continue the discussion here and go through, and I asked it for an icebreaker question. I thought it would give me well, I guess it does give me some discussion questions. When's the time in life when the things didn't make sense? How do you react?
Oh, here we go.
So here's some more as well.
Yeah. And this thing is free, right? This
thing is free. Yes.
wow.
So anyway, just some quick examples
Yeah.
on how we can leverage AI it's basically taking our sermons, and we're using some AI to get the sermon transcript. And then once I have the transcript, I can use some more AI to lighten the workload within the church, or increase my output. Now, if I don't have a daily devotion that I do right now because I don't have time for it,
Yeah.
I can make myself a daily devotion here inside of just a few minutes, 5 of them, a whole week's worth within a very short time.
That's painful, Steve, because that used to take me hours to strip the audio out and put it on the podcast and put it on social, and all of hours and hours and hours I spent doing this stuff. I'm sad that I spent so much time, but now I'm excited about how fast this is going to be able to do so many different things with this content.
Yeah, absolutely. So the conclusion is your recorded sermons are actually now very valuable in different dimensions, different places. Social media video posts, week's worth of audio devotions, small group discussion guides. There's a lot of stuff there. Feel free, Bob, to make sure this is captured on your AI. But yeah, it's important. This is a time saver, and you can go in and modify it and edit and all that stuff. So all right.
The cool thing is as well, it's not just last weekend's sermon. You already have maybe so many people, as we talked about, have a year or 2 years worth of recorded sermons. You can go back and choose the ones that people have viewed the most, clip them up, put them on social media with the sermon clipper. And it's a great tool to get people's eyes on your sermon. Phil, you can attest to this. I used to all the time have people walk in the door and introduce themselves and say, hey, I attended online. I watched 10 of your recordings, and this is the church for me. I heard what you were saying. This is the right vibe for me. I like you guys. This is now my church. Walking in the door for the first time, they've already decided this is where I'm going to church because I agree with what their sermon said online.
Yeah, it spoke to their hearts.
And now you can say, tune into our podcast. We got weekly, daily content.
Yeah, absolutely. Podcast, blog. There's so many different things that it can create extra layers for you to publish and take little to no time in order to do it.
Yeah. All right. So before we get to some Q&A here, we want to remind people you can get this recorded version of it, complete with Bob's AI. And just send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv, and just put in the subject repurpose. So just email us if you want a copy of this, support@streamingchurch.tv. And you know what? We've been talking about this. Can people try this? How can people try like the digital Devo and the sermon clipper? How can they do that, Steve?
They go to streamingchurch.tv. There's a free trial there. So if you want to play around with it, just get a feel for it, how it works for you. Just go create a free account.
Yeah, and it needs to be a premium or a platinum account. We have 3 plans.
Yes,
but it's got to have to be premium or platinum. And look, you don't have to enter any credit cards. We're not going to
Yep.
want your firstborn. We're not going to,
Yeah.
want
And-
any of that stuff. So,
Yeah.
Phil,
All the accounts are free, but the basic one doesn't include the recorded sermons. So
okay,
yeah.
that's what I was about to ask, Steve. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes,
basic won't,
that's
yeah.
why you need premium or platinum. You
Yeah.
got to have the recordings in order to actually do something with.
Yeah,
And you can
basic.
upload an old sermon if you're
Yeah.
you're new to us. Before you even stream, you could upload an old sermon and go through and play with these new tools and see how they create really great content for you to use. I've got a list of 20 that I created the other day, and I was even shocked by some of the suggestions that came from ChatGPT on things that you can do with sermons after the fact.
Nice. All right, good deal. And by the way, we'll help you. So if you do create a free trial, we'll help you. We have pretty good support. I think we have pretty good support. All right. So we did talk about a special giveaway at the very beginning. If you've stuck around for this thing, there's a special giveaway, and here's how you can take advantage of that. We are going to give away 1 year's worth of My Church Daily. You heard Steve mention it earlier, and you can just go to the website, mychurchdaily.com, and you can read up more about what mychurchdaily.com will do. But we're going to pick out of all the emails we get, we're going to pick one person here who will win a year's worth of use for My Church Daily. And so just send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv, and be sure and put in the subject line, My Church Daily. Everybody clear on that? So you just do that.
Except for what is My Church Daily, Phil? I want to win it, but
Yeah.
I want to know what it is.
Yeah, what is it? Yeah, well, Steve was talking about, he used the word Allegra, but actually Alexa. Alexa has these things called daily flash briefings, and you can use daily flash briefings to catch up on your weather, your sports, your news, whatever. Well, My Church Daily makes it so that you can take like the digital Devo we were just talking about, the little devotional things. You could upload those clips on your Alexa account, your Amazon account, and it will set it up to play. And then your members can subscribe to the flash briefing for that, and they can every day, they could get a sermon, or not a sermon, well, they could, but really it's designed for short little clips. So Digital Devo can set up a little devotional in your pastor's voice, cloned, and they'll get this every day using the flash briefing for their Alexa devices. Am I clear on that, Steve, or did I?
Yep, that's it. You basically just take those digital devotionals that we created earlier, and you basically just schedule them. I want this one on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can schedule them as far out as you want.
Yeah.
And as the week goes on, as your church members, get out of bed, it's for me, even before I get out of bed, I ask her to play my flash briefing, and it'll walk me through with the weather and news highlights and the digital devotions for my church.
All right, there you have it. So send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv, put the subject line, My Church Daily, and we will pick a winner. Very quickly, before we take Q&A, here's some resources to help you. We have a lot of things going on. We do webinars. You can always see, you always go to webinar.streamingchurch.tv to sign up for future webinars. Or you can see the past webinars there. We have a blog, streamingchurch.tv's blog. Just go to blog.streamingchurch.tv. We have the Church Solutions podcast, which just subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Look for Church Solutions podcast, subscribe to it. We do it every week. And then, of course, we always have streaming video available with streamingchurch.tv. And those are some resources. We just want to help you and your church. So time for any Q&A. If we have any questions, you can type them in right now. I don't know. I've been trying to run this little show here, so I don't know if we have any questions. Let me look and see what I've got. Steve, do you have anything popping up here?
I'm not seeing anything from the...
So here's a question for you. When I use the sermon clipper and I actually use it, is there a way for me to even, do I need to do any further editing of the clips that the sermon clipper might make for me? We're talking the actual video part here. Is it just complete as is once I get it, or do I need to do some additional editing?
You can take it to whatever social tool you want to post it on, and most of those social tools have all the editing you'll capabilities you'll need right there on that tool. So if you wanted to go in and, crop things further, my wife is a big Instagram person, and she's posting multiple times a day. And so she's actually associating music or doing whatever else, putting music underneath the video and that sort of thing. So you typically take the source video and you can use your social tool to manipulate it further. Or if you have your own video editing tools, there's some very limited tools that we provide, like you can trim it. You can, we have an online trimmer, and that video will show up as one of the videos that you can trim if you wanted to trim it further. So if you didn't like that it was 1.5 minutes and you only wanted it a minute, you can clip it as well.
Okay. Another question. If I use the sermon clipper, will it automatically post it to my social media channels? In other words, is it just going to push a button and it automatically goes up there?
It does not. That's probably the next phase of this thing. But yes, it's going to require you to go to your social media platform and post yourself.
Okay. All right. So that has to be done yourself. And any other questions at this point, guys? Does the Digital Devo, you say it clones my pastor's voice. Can I tell the difference? I mean, how good is the cloning?
I've played around with it with at least a half a dozen voices, probably more, probably 8 or 10 voices. And it didn't like you the first time very well. We didn't think it did a great job with you.
Most people don't like me the first time. I don't know why that is, but
even rejected by the AI tool.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely cloned your voice. You can kind of tell it was you, but it wasn't a great clone. But all the other ones were pretty much indecipherable, including my voice as well. It was, I was like, wow, this sounds, at least to me, sounded just like me.
Yeah, it did to me too. I thought when I initially saw your video from the hackathon event, I thought it was you until I realized what you had done, and I was like, oh, it's not really Steve, it's virtual Steve.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting thing, is a cheat for you there. If you want to, I recorded it initially, and I had some ums and ahs and stumbled over some words, and it's because we were having to do a presentation for a hackathon we were working on, and just realized, I'll just let the voice clone do it for me. I just have the transcript. It's not going to have a bunch of uhs and ahs and mispronounced words. And so just wrote the transcript out, which I already had, which I was reading, and it read it much better than I did. So yeah, it sounded just like me without all the ums and ahs and stuff like it.
I used it later on. It seemed to, didn't you feel like it did a better job when I used it?
The second try with you, and part of the training of the voice is it's dependent on the quality of the audio that you give the tool to train your voice.
And the more files you give it, right? The more samples.
Yeah, the more samples and the better quality, like less background noise. Background noise tends to degrade the quality of what it's creating. But yeah, it's
okay. Yeah. Here's a question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Where do you see this stuff going in the future? So where do you see AI for churches going in the future? We talked about the sermon clips. We talked about the digital devotions. What do you see happening in the near future?
I mean,
with AI?
I feel like AI is going to be a little bit of a game changer across all kinds of areas, including the church. It's kind of like the beginning of the internet, in my opinion. It's like when someone first introduced a web browser, people thought, oh, wow, I could, eventually it took a few years, but I could post my sermon online, or I could have a church website where I let people know what we believed and where we're at and what we're about, and everybody's just kind of, oh, wow, never really thought of that. And it just created all kinds of opportunities. So I feel like AI is going to go to increase productivity of the church, so that I can either not work as hard or produce a lot more of my content with AI as my assistant. So I think it's going to go through the kind of like the internet was slow. People were slow to adopt the internet in the beginning. It's dangerous. You don't want my stuff up there. My name was found on the internet, and now it's my name's on the internet. It's in Facebook and everywhere. And some of the hysteria, I think, went away, and the usefulness came up. So I think AI is going to go through a similar transition.
And here's another question. So there has been pushback from some church leaders about AI. So along those same lines as you were talking about earlier, just now, do you feel like as time goes on, the pushback's going to be less and less?
I think, I think you treat it as a tool, and you're in charge. You're the one driving the AI, turning the AI on and so I think once people discover what it can do, and I mean, my impression of, you heard about AI coming out, not too long ago was, oh, it's like Siri, or it's like my Amazon device that gets stuff wrong all the time and doesn't listen to the right questions. And I've been just really impressed with the quality of the content that's come out of the AI. It's surpassed my expectations. And I think those that have heard about it but haven't played with it yet, I think they'll go through a similar transition once they start, just playing with it.
Yeah, a lot of folks are really against it who haven't used it yet, and realize it's just a really powerful tool. It's not magic. It's not magic. It may seem like it, but I like Steve's example. It's a really exceptional intern that you have to train really well, and it'll do things that will really save you time.
Yeah. It's an unpaid intern that doesn't complain.
Unpaid intern. The best
doesn't
kind.
complain. You can throw it at tasks at it and see how it does. And it's going to make some mistakes like an intern does, but that's why you're in charge.
Yeah, you just go back and say, no, not that. Here's what I wanted. And eventually you get some really, really great products.
Yeah.
And we have an AI web host. So we have a very streamingchurch.tv has a very interactive video chat platform. And we actually have introduced an AI web host to that. Although, like we're saying here, with these AI tools, there always needs to be a human around. And so, we encourage people to interact with those who are watching their streaming video through chat and other means. So I would encourage people to try our AI web host with streamingchurch.tv, but be there with it, because there are times it hallucinates. Yes. And when we say hallucinates, we're not talking about mushrooms, right? We're talking about just gives wrong information from time to time.
It gives wrong answers, yeah.
Yeah. And it's getting better and better as the different iterations go by.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's always going to, as our AI mentor, Kenny says, Kenny Zhang, always have a human involved when working with AI. And we're not suggesting not having humans involved. We're just saying it's a great tool. It's a great unpaid intern that will give you great answers if you ask the right questions.
That's kind of like life. Okay, look, we've gone over time. I mean, the actual webinar wasn't too long, but now we've done some Q&A here and talk. So we really appreciate everybody being involved here today. Thank you so much for hanging around here with us. We always will answer your questions any way we can. Just send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv, or you can go to streamingchurch.tv and chat with us live. We'll be back on there pretty soon here now. So unless we have any other questions, we're going to just skedaddle here. Is that okay with you guys?
Sounds good.
I would love to skedaddle.
All right. Well, I'll show you how to do that here once we're offline. But all right, folks, thanks again. Thanks for being with our webinar today. We sure appreciate it. And again, anytime you need anything, just reach out to us at streamingchurch.tv. That guy over there is Michael Gray with a hat and the beard. The other guy there is Steve Lacey. And well, you know me, I'm Phil Thompson. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll catch you again on another webinar soon.